Hi there. I'm so happy you're here. Here's what you'll gain by listening to the very last second of this conversation with Leah Mermelstein and Dr. Jennifer Joya. In this episode, Leah, Jen, and I explore how educators, specialists, and caregivers can work together as a unified team to support students who are stuck in their learning journey. You'll learn why success requires building support directly into the educational system through three core elements: why true collaboration means breaking down silos between different educational settings, and why equitable student support requires addressing both individual needs and systemic barriers. Stay with us. I'm so happy to have you join our conversation. This is Solutions Coaching and Teaching Strategies, the podcast that extends education beyond the classroom. A show that offers educators and caregivers strategies to try right away and ensure every student receives the inspiration and support they need to thrive. I am Olivia Wall, and I am happy to welcome my guest today. Leah Mermelstein has already been a guest on 2 episodes, Season 1, Episode 10, Season 2, Episode 35. And Dr. Jen Joya is a wonderful human that is a friend and colleague of Leah's that I'm glad to have them in partnership and in conversation today. Let me tell you a little bit about both of them if you haven't already met them. Leah Mermelstein is a literacy thought leader, a published author, and a passionate writing, reading, and language development authority. She has dedicated 25 years of her life to the world of education. She is also a mom to a 6th grade daughter, and in her spare time, which I don't know how, Leah, you have any spare time, but you have been tutoring children that are stuck in some way. Dr. Jen Joya is a school neuropsychologist. She provides a variety of evaluations, and this knocked my socks off. In 2021, became a diplomat to the American Board of School Neuropsychology. Jen is also a mom to a 6th grade daughter. Um, I am honored to welcome you both. I am excited for this conversation, the issue that I'm excited to talk about today. And you both have so many strategies to offer, not just coaches, teachers, and administrators, but also caregivers.
Yes.
So we're hitting every audience member that tunes into this podcast. Really, after COVID, and you mentioned it, we started hearing more and more about kids being stuck or falling back. Well, it's a problem, but we also have a huge equity gap that has grown exponentially. It's always been there. But Leah, when you mentioned tutoring, my trepidation with tutoring is it just grows the haves and have-nots. And so I know both of you are a solution
Mhm.
to this issue because of your collaboration. You see that we have to have a team effort, and you're going to offer strategies for nurturing that team today. But it's also, how can we redefine the term stuck? How can we offer support and services to all children that need it, and bridge that equity barrier? So I'm excited to jump in. Jen, you're going to kick us off. Let's talk the word stuck. We need a shared definition. And you see the word stuck in different ways, which I appreciate. So, how do you define it? And, what are different ways kids may be stuck?
Sure. No, it's definitely something that comes to my attention often in the practice I work at, doing evaluation. Um, Oftentimes, families will come in where they will share concerns that the school and their own concerns they're not on the same page. Families and schools are not always on the same page about concerns about their children, academically, or even socially, emotionally. And so it causes some difficulty where, a child might be just below average or, not so significantly below, where a lot of times families and schools will not be on the same page or will not look at those weaknesses in the same way. I also find that kids tend to be stuck when some of these kids who have gone through elementary school and they've been fine and getting good grades, but now they hit middle school and now they are dealing with a lot of different complexities in the middle
Yeah.
school world.
It's intense.
Different classes, different teachers, having to, really be organized. And then some of those weaknesses really come to fruition at that point. And now I have a lot of families that come in and say, hey, my kid's now in middle school and now they're really struggling. What can I do? And the last way that I feel like kids get stuck is at the high school level. So I have kids, a lot of kids that come in who are high achievers, who are super bright, involved in everything possible. But now they're having trouble keeping focused, trouble managing their anxieties, and they get stuck.
Yeah.
Despite all of these beautiful strengths that they have, now they're facing some roadblocks in their academic career. So those are three ways where I kind of look at that, at the idea of being stuck.
Jen, I want to ask you a follow-up because it just occurred to me. You do sit in on a lot of meetings that are about kids. Do you do anything strategy-wise proactively before everyone is around the table to ensure that people are kind of calibrated around what they're going to hear about the child, whether it's a caregiver, a teacher, a support provider?
So in my role as an evaluator, I tend to be at the meetings after the evaluations are done, to go over the reports and whatnot. That would be lovely to be part of the conversations beforehand,
Got it.
but
Okay.
it doesn't always happen so much. When I worked in the school as a child study team member, as a school psych, we would have those meetings beforehand and whatnot, and try to figure out proactively what we could do for the child before even going through an eval. But private practice tends to be a little different. But I would love to be able to do that. It's a great point.
Yeah, I'm just thinking like, as a caregiver, I would feel defensive. Sometimes if I'm walking into a meeting and hearing that my child has a label perhaps, or, the word stuck doesn't have an awesome connotation, let's face it. It doesn't feel it's the difference between struggling and striving. Struggling feels like I'm stuck. Striving feels like I'm reaching towards something. So it's the language we use that we have to be so careful about. So then I'm thinking, Leah, if, we're at this table, we have identified patterns that, we're seeing, you have the gorgeous notion of that broad breaststroke, right? And so you can see these patterns, not just district wide, but you can see it nationwide, which is amazing, or worldwide, really, for you. So how do you push that idea of changing patterns as a team? You two are both in partnership all the time. And then a follow-up question to that is, in your tutoring work, how do you ensure equity? Because that is something that's always on my mind.
Great. I'm going to start with that first one in
Yeah.
terms of thinking about this at the district level and kind of the work that I do as a literacy consultant. So, first of all, one of the things I believe is that every child, regardless if they've been evaluated, should have a team of people behind them. Every child. And what I try and do in my work is because I think it's in order for every student to thrive, literacy support needs to be baked into the educational system.
Mm.
And it needs to be a team effort because
Yeah.
each team member brings their own unique talents and or their specific knowledge of that child who's stuck. So in my experience, baking it into the system starts at the leadership level. And so when I'm partnering with schools, I dialogue with leaders around three core questions. And so question number one is there time for the team of any child, not just the ones who are having an evaluation, to dialogue? And if there's not, I help them brainstorm ways to get that time baked into the system. And I'm going to circle back to something that Jen mentioned to think about why time matters so much. Jen said that in her practice, she often has situations where the families in school are not on the same page.
Yeah.
They're not seeing the same things. So as a consultant, as a tutor, and as a mom, I believe we could have a bigger impact on individual children if there was time baked into the system for longer dialogue between families and teachers, way before there's even a formal evaluation.
Right.
Probing questions such as like, tell me more about why you feel that way. What have you seen that makes you concerned? Those probing questions, they open up a professional dialogue between the home and the school where each can learn from the other. And Olivia, there's other kinds of time that can be baked into it as well. Time for learning labs around children. And even rather than saying children who are stuck, teachers who are stuck with children.
Yes.
They're
Yes.
feeling stuck. Because and time for teach. And the other thing, Jen and I have been talking about time for teachers to read the evaluation that someone like Jen creates. It's just having those details really helps. So that's number one. And of course, some teachers take the time to do all those things, but if it's not baked into the system, it will be inconsistent.
Yes. So, but Leah, it's interesting. I was talking to Julie Wright yesterday. She wrote the book, What's Our Response? She's brilliant. And our conversation was about whether coaches should be at the table when there's a data meeting or any meeting. And some districts I'm serving are on the fence. Like coaches already have enough they've got to do. They definitely shouldn't be facilitating. But what you just said, again, resonates with me because the idea of a coach being the bridge
Yeah.
between the patterns they're hearing and being able to support the teacher to implement in a coaching cycle or learning lab that supports for not just one child at the table, but if there's a pattern, that coach needs to be part of the team,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because they see the grade level, they see the building. So I'm sorry to interrupt your three, but
Oh.
what's number two, friend?
And so, and just quickly, I want to say about that is that my experiences in schools have shown me if we have these dialogues early on, we can avoid a lot of the problems and we can unstick children much faster.
So true. Yeah.
Yeah. So number two, I'd say, are there resources? Are there people and curriculum available so that when students are stuck, there are clear-cut ways baked into the system to take action? So I'm going to share a recent tutoring story, which I think bridges both of your questions. So a student I'm tutoring had someone like Jen carefully notice all the details of his learning story. Then there was a dialogue between the school and the family, and I was lucky enough to join that dialogue. And through that dialogue, the team made a decision to give this student a very particular kind of instruction every single day in small group.
Wow.
And the school was able to make this decision because they had the people and this particular curriculum in place. And so the people and this curriculum were really part of the literacy solution for this child.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be tutoring him less now because of this.
That's fascinating. So the curriculum is even part of the team.
Yes.
In a way, right? Like using
Yeah.
it. Yeah, that's awesome.
Now this little boy is going to have more time to be outside and play with his friends rather than sitting with me in a tutoring session because his needs are being met in school.
That's huge. That's
Yes.
huge.
And I think the other thing I'm going to try and do is make sure that my work complements rather than competes with what's happening at school.
That's
so I'm in
everything.
conversation with that teacher.
Yeah. Yeah. Leah, it's interesting too. When I was working with a school district, Dr. Beth Swenson was also supporting and serving the district. And she said something that I've never forgotten. She was talking about students that have IEPs or 504s, but it's really any child. And she was saying, why do we create so many unnecessary cobwebs for children that they have to clear? Like, why are we not talking? She was using the example of word walls or the letter strands in classrooms and the anchor visual that goes with it. She goes, I can walk into one school building and just in one grade level, different teachers have different alphabet strands up with different visual cues. She goes, why are we doing this to kids?
Yeah.
And so I think there's also a responsibility when it comes to how the school chooses to commit to different curricula options, that there's an understanding that we do this for children to have clarity, right? And then we can convey to their caregivers. We can bring brilliant consultants in like you, Leah, to support us with our literacy journey. Jen, I'm interested to know from you, what patterns are you finding? What trends are you finding that you're supporting caregivers, teachers, coaches, and children with?
Sure. So I always try to empower families I work with just knowledge about the school systems and policies. And, a lot of the work is with special education and how to navigate the child study team process, because it's a pretty complex process. And it's surprising to me that so many families do not know how to go through it. But also being knowledgeable about general education and the policies and procedures that we have involved there. So me and Leah were just talking the other day, and I had talked to her about, we were talking about things going on, and I said, well, every school district has an INRS committee. And she said, what's an INRS committee? It's an intervention and referral services committee that's provided through general education. Every public school has one, to my knowledge. It's another way to catch kids who are having difficulties, just kind of brainstorming ideas with other professionals in the building. But it's those type of things that families are not always so in the know about. That I try to help, you know, talk to them, teach them about. I think also being able to have real conversations with the kids that I work with, if they're mature enough to do so, or old enough, to really talk about the diagnosis, to talk about their strengths and weaknesses and what that may mean for them in school, because it's their academic career, regardless, it's their path. And I really try to do as much as I can to really empower them with the knowledge that I get from the evaluations and what they can really do with it, to help themselves and advocate for themselves. And I think I also try to really take the perspective of each client that I work with, each family that I work with, or the school district in and of itself. Where are they coming from? Every case is different. Every family I work with is different. And where, just trying to understand where they're coming from, that, why are they going through this process, or why are they hesitant to go through this process? What are some of those boundaries there? And so I really try to get to understand them on a more emotional level.
I
think it helps.
appreciate that. And I really love the idea of children being a part of the conversation. I think, kids often are on the outside of these bigger decisions that are being made for them, and often with good intent. But, I know children that don't want to get pull-out services because of othering, and they feel like, "What am I missing in the classroom to get this?" So the idea, let's bring it back to the team strategy.
Yes.
How is it that we're ensuring children are getting served and supported in the classroom setting, in an inclusive setting as often as possible, because children all benefit from each other. Every child has strengths that they can learn and share in a classroom. And so, Leah, I've been following you always on social, always. But, over the last few years, I've seen a shift to something that I think you're really brave. And I appreciate your centrist approach, because, you have to deal with some flack, I've
Mhm.
noticed on social at times.
Yes.
And something that you shared was around tutoring and the possibilities. And the response was interesting because people are like, well, tutoring's elitist. How do you ensure it's equitable? And so I first want to call out or give you a shout out for always bringing the dialogue and discourse on social in particular back to research what it is saying and what it's not saying. You hear and you listen to everyone's perspective, whether they agree or disagree with you. This is what we all need to be doing, hint, hint. And, I think first, I'm pretty sure you shared that there's some type of grant that happened in Bergen County, if I'm not mistaken, to support tutoring. So I wanted to have you just speak to that a little bit. And then what is research saying? And what is it not saying about reading and writing instruction these days?
Well, it's interesting. I'm going to talk a little bit about the grant for a
Please.
second, because what I just saw another article, which I will stick in the show notes, because
Awesome.
what this article talks about is that a lot of the research is showing that these big grants for tutoring are not having the positive impact that they should be having.
Oh,
And
that's
so
interesting.
yeah, and so that conversation that was happening on social media was rightfully happening. But what this article does is it talks about, before you jump, that getting the grant money is the first step. And the next step is the team coming together to problem solve all the things that could go wrong and then make sure they don't go wrong. So I'm going to definitely give you that. And so I'd say, yes, every potential comes with problems. And we either can be fearful of the problems and not make a change, or dive into the problems and make something amazing, which is where I'm always going to go for.
Yeah.
And I'm always going to speak to the research. And thank you so much for your compliment, because it does feel like it does feel scary all the time. And
Yeah.
I try so hard to approach the research conversation with an open mind and an open heart. And I think it's
You do.
real important to think about what research is saying and what it's not saying. So I'm just going to focus on two core pieces of research
Yeah, please.
that I think are important for the whole team to know about. And I
Awesome.
think that I talk about this research with leaders as well, because we need time to have dialogue. We need resources like people and curriculum, but we also need knowledge. And we
Yes.
need research-based knowledge. The first thing is something that's called orthographic mapping. And orthographic mapping was first described by Linnea Airy. And it's a process that happens in your brain. It was discovered through brain scans that helps you automatize reading and writing, which is what we want. We want every single child to decode and encode easily and
Yes.
automatically. And
Yes.
so there are three parts to orthographic mapping, and I'll just quickly show those three parts through the word cat. So in order to be able to read and write cat easily and automatically, you have to know the spellings of the sounds in cat. So you need to know that is spelled with a C, that sound is spelled with an A, and t is spelled with a T. I always start with sound because most of us naturally are already speaking, and we can attach the sounds that we say to the
To
new
the
code
graphic.
that we're learning.
Mhm.
So that's number one. Number two, I need to be able to blend. I need to be able to push those sounds together to read cat. But I also need to be able to segment. I need to be able to pull those sounds apart to write cat. And so the third thing is I need to know what a cat is, that vocabulary. And so in orthographic mapping, that process that happens in your brain helps kids to read and write automatically. What this process helps us to understand is that here's the equity part for me, virtually every human can become unstuck when it comes to learning to read easily and automatically. The difference is some kids have to go through that orthographic process many, many times
Yeah.
before it's automatized. So the research is vital because it helps the entire team understand what and how to work with students. If decoding and encoding are not automatic, then we want to do everything we can in school and at home, possibly tutoring, but in the dreamiest worlds, it'd be happening at school to
Yes.
facilitate those three parts of the orthographic mapping process.
I love that example. Thank you for taking us through. What's the other?
The second one is Sweller's cognitive load theory. And so this is a well-researched idea that in a nutshell says, and we can all attest to this in our own life, when we are attending to too many things at once, nothing goes into our long-term memory, nothing. So it's a reminder to the team that we need to artfully plan our lessons and our conversations with our class, with our group, with one-on-one, so that we present the just right amount of new information. And so to me, those are the two most important research things that every parent, every teacher, every district administrator, anybody on the team should know and understand.
Oh, beautiful. That was so helpful. So now I have a strategy for orthographic mapping with a concrete example. Thank you, friend. And then the idea of, research always having our back. Leah, with us being consultants that travel the country, it's so critical that when we leave a building, when we step out of a district, it's not Leah Mermelstein said, it's all of the researchers. We were learning alongside Leah as a facilitator, and these are the researchers that have our back, right? And so I'm always grateful for nuggets of research that I can have it when I'm in conversation with others. And that's the brilliance of you on social, because you're always sharing these articles that I'm saving. And then I want to shift a little bit, because I worry so much about the silos, right? And so, if we're saying we need to be on the same team, I worry about just even in the classroom. If we look at all of the different subjects, especially in the elementary world, but Jen, thinking of middle and high school as well, each period a child is moving throughout could be a silo that is facilitated by a teacher that may not be communicating with other teachers on that team. I do want to give a shout out. Both of my boys have attended the same middle school. I'm in Ithaca, New York, and they've both attended Boynton Middle School. And something that that middle school does that is brilliant. They to have kids on two different teams, but each team works in tandem to have group conversations about the children. I actually wrote an article when Ben was in middle school to highlight the work of his sixth grade team of teachers. I forgot I wrote that. I have to go back. And so when they reach out to a caregiver, there's one person designated on the team. But when the caregiver's meeting with that group, it's every single teacher on the team, and they all offer assets to what they're noticing about your student in science and ELA and math and social studies. Sometimes an outside, like a PE teacher, will be there. The school counselor is always there. It's amazing to me and powerful because we know kids show up in different ways for different teachers in different contexts. So if we're talking about unsiloing, Leah, what does that mean to you in this conversation of teamwork?
Well, the three words that come into my mind is that it goes back to what we were talking about in terms of like at the big level, at the systematic level, time to dialogue, the resources, the people, and the curriculum to put that dialogue into action, and the knowledge that everyone on the team deserves to have this knowledge. Like last year, or maybe 2 years ago, I think I remember contact you because I can fall into this too. Like I'm like I know what I need to know, but 3 years ago I got trained in Sounds Right.
I know. I wish
I know, and to use one of your words, it rocked my world.
Yes.
I feel so much more confident to give kids that precise instruction
Yeah.
that they need. And so I think it's back to those three things. And again, I think it comes at the leadership level. If we want to
Yes.
make that time, resources, and knowledge.
Yeah. Leah, my dance card was full that summer, and it's one of my biggest regrets. I did not take that training with you. I'm like, oh, because you're just so smart. And oh well, you missed opportunity.
I'll send you the link. Maybe you'll do it in the next few years.
But it's not gonna be as fun without you. I know, like, it would have been great. I didn't have the capacity. Oh, well. Jen, so then let's shift to the idea of talking across aisles, because I wanna just say, one of the most important things in my life are my friends that are fellow caregivers, that I can have completely open, non-judgy conversations with my friends, to say like, I am stuck, or is this normal? Is this happening in your house too? Just to be able to connect. And so I want to just name, that this relationship you have with Leah is sacred and invaluable because you're not just professional colleagues, but you're mom friends, right? So, Jen, then for us, what other strategies do you have for helping connect across the aisles when we're in a school setting, or for caregivers, teachers, administrators, all of us?
I mean, I think it goes back to, having those individual conversations, between parents and families and learning from each other, like Lee and I always do. Um, and even taking the children as individuals, if we're given the opportunity to learn about their strengths and weaknesses, um, developing, I mean, I would love to see, there's some districts that have, these study skill type of classes, these executive functioning type of classes where they really help to develop one's, executive functioning skills, organization, attention to task, and all of those type of things, really helping to kind of bridge that gap between individual needs and even helping the district in general just kind of develop these wonderful programs that would help many, many kids.
Well, and I want to put a book on both of your radar too, I would say. Ari Gerzon Kessler, he wrote a book called On the Same Team. It has won so many awards. It is magnificent. And he created a model called FET teams, FET teams. Ari, I've got to give you this shout out. And so what those teams include, it's families and educators together. And he gives an explicit structure for how you can incorporate these teams outside of the school day, and within, but it's this beautiful notion of we are a team, and it's the insights that the caregivers can offer of what their children love that the kids may not feel comfy necessarily yet to share. Not all children are, extroverts and want everyone to know about themselves, and that's always been fascinating to me. So Jen, would you share with us an inspiring educator from your life?
Sure. So I think of two people when I think of being inspired. One is my daughter's second grade teacher, Miss Bablionia, right here from Hoboken School District. It was right after COVID that my daughter was placed with Miss Bablionia, and despite all of the difficulties during that time and hardships that we were facing, Miss B really got to know my daughter and the other kids in the class on such an individual basis. And Leah's daughter was in that class as well. And so she was just a phenomenal, phenomenal teacher. And someone else also from the Hoboken School District who I've had the pleasure of working with for many, many years, Dr. Yesenia Flores, who just, again, takes the time to get to know all of her students and always refers to them as her family. And I just find that very inspirational. And, being able to know each of these kids on such an intimate level is amazing.
Well, that's lovely. Leah, how about you?
Well, I'm going to keep it in the Hoboken community. And not to embarrass Jen too much, I choose Jen for this conversation.
Oh, so sweet.
So my main job, is to partner with school districts to create change. And because of this, and I'm sure you know this too, Olivia, we're focused on the big picture, the district, the school, the teacher, the class I'm working in. And making an impact in school requires me to keep that big picture in mind. But when I met Jen 4 years ago through our daughters are actually besties, we began having lots of conversations about education. And I was blown away by her attention to details. I mean, just blown away. What she saw, what she heard, what's beneath the surface. Not only was it the details, but her ability to bridge those details into written advice on the exact type of instruction that the student needed to succeed, to become unstuck. And I'm inspired by her because her advice is always clear, concise, deliberate, and oh my gosh, so kind. And seriously, it was Jen that led me to tutoring because I was super curious. And what I've learned now, kind of putting it in here, is that how impactful we can be as leaders to dive deep into the small details of a child's literacy journey and then connect that to the big picture of systemic change in district.
Both of you are a gift to education. Leah, your toolkits are incredible. So I want to make sure to put a link to those in the show notes. It's something you've worked tirelessly on, is a resource. And I will put both of your contact information because I'm sure people will want to reach out and get in touch with you. Thank you for all you do for kids. And not just for kids, for the grown-ups that get to have children in their care. Scholutions Coaching and Teaching Strategies is created, produced, and edited by me, Olivia Wall. Thank you to my older son, Benjamin, who created the music playing in the background. You can follow and listen to Scholutions wherever you get your podcasts, or subscribe to never miss an episode and watch on YouTube. Thank you to my guests, Leah Mermelstein, and Dr. Jennifer Gioia for sharing how we can support students who are stuck in their learning journeys. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Send me an email at solutionspodcast@gmail.com. Let me know how your school or district is addressing both individual needs and systemic barriers while ensuring interventions complement rather than compete with each other. Tune in every Monday for the best research-backed coaching and teaching strategies you can apply right away to better the lives of the children in your care. Stay tuned for my bonus episodes every Friday, where I'll share how I applied what I learned from guests in schools that week. See you then.